till shade is gone,
till water is gone,
into the shadow with teeth bared,
screaming defiance with the last breath,
to spit in Sightblinder's eye on the last day.
by my honor and the light.
My life will be a dagger for Sightblinder's heart.
Until the last day. To Shyle Ghul itself.
This is A Dagger for Sightblinder, a podcast focused on all things Wheel of Time, with your hosts,
Sarah Lucas
and Adam Tricola. Hello, everyone. May you find shade this day. And you too, Sarah, I suppose. How are you today?
Adam, I'm good. How are you?
I've got enough shade, so I'm good with you if you want a little for yourself.
You'll share.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll throw some shade your way, you might say.
What else is new?
Oh. Yeah. So this is our first official episode. We did our pilot episode where I lied like a liar about not having our intro ready, and it's actually ready now. And so everyone can hear how cool it is or isn't. I was excited to be able to do some part of the production value for this show, actually, because I thought maybe you would hog all of that, all of the Fiverr interactions.
Oh, really? You didn't think I would share and be like, you should do some work? Stop being so lazy.
Right. I thought maybe you'd just be like, yeah, I'm good with just Adam being lazy. I almost called myself Zareth just now.
You need to switch your brain mode.
I know. If we post this on YouTube, actually, we'll end up with Zareth is my name under here, but because I don't want to change it. Anyways, because I'm lazy. See, it's this cycle.
It's a full circle.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle and a vicious circle, both. So, not to be confused like with a vicious wheel, like the wheel of time,
like a wheel of time.
Right, a wheel of time. Like there are multiples.
Maybe
there might be. We don't know. That we just know that there's neither beginning nor end to. I feel like the text actually there's textual evidence that there's only one, because it refers to the wheel of time.
That's true. So there's just one that we know of.
I know. Like we hope. What happens when it needs repairs?
You get like a flat tire.
Oh yeah, like something, it's weaving all these things. Like you think that eventually it's going to malfunction a little bit.
It'll break.
I hope not. I mean, hopefully it keeps mostly weaving. Who knows?
Is this like a little bit of foreshadowing for me?
No, I don't think so. There is discussion actually about what the Dark One's intent for the wheel is, like, and that's later in, I think, in book 1. And I don't even know if they actually, I can't remember if they talk about it in later books, but I don't know. I don't think people see it as an actual real mechanism. One thing I will note, and it's actually something that's part of what we're going to be talking about in today's book section, is they refer to the wheel a lot as kind of like almost a deity. Like Moraine talks about like, oh, she's part of the pattern and stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because it doesn't always lose that. It doesn't necessarily always ever lose that mysticism, but the direction they go with it is different. Like at first, Moraine kind of appears like a prophet. She's like, oh, they're part of the like they're part of this bigger thing. And then later it's kind of like, if somehow like they wrote book 1 like in the middle of like the series again, and they got all the continuity to right, like I don't think she would say exactly that.
Right.
That sort of thing.
And I like that you brought that up, because so last episode I pointed out that like my disadvantage with the audiobook is that I can't see any of the words, obviously, and I can't see the spelling and anything. And I ended up Googling very safely so that I don't accidentally spoil anything for myself. But pattern, like the pattern is capitalized.
Oh, is it? See, it's been a long time since oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, that is like a deity sort of
Like
thing.
it's like like if you were to refer to like the Bible, or like it's the pattern, like this is what it says it's going to do.
Right. Well, yeah, like you could say, yeah, it's like you can refer to a god or something and have it be lowercase,
Right.
but when you're referring to the creator, to the actual real, or whatever, as a religion would say,
Mhm.
to God, the deity, then it's capitalized immediately. So
Yeah.
yeah, I wonder, do they also capitalize wheel?
I didn't.
Not like wagon wheel, but we could look that up.
You could look it
Yeah,
up.
stay tuned next time, folks, for a captivating discussion on the capitalization of wheel.
I was gonna say, you have the books, like you could just go pick one up and look. Not now. Don't leave me hanging.
Oh, well, see, I like that you're enabling my laziness, so I didn't want to.
Yeah.
So
I've learned quickly.
it's useful. It's good. It gotta train them young. So
Oh dear.
so guys, we will to our listeners, we've decided that we want some kind of a segment right at the start, just as kind of a general greeting and kind of a table of contents, water cooler talk, something like that. I'm basically just reading off of our show notes, our super ghetto show notes. But the thing is, we want to have a place that's safe for people to come in, and we can talk about generalized Wheel of Time things. And like entering a podcast about Wheel of Time, you're going to take the risk of some minor spoilers at the very least, but we will always try, when we move to the next segment, we'll tell you what spoilers are going to be like kind of available for you. And we don't want to ruin anything for anyone. And we realize there are people who are going to be watching the show who just want to talk about the show. And we'll talk about the show first, and then we'll talk about where we are in the books, because people in the show don't necessarily care about about the books. Even though I recommend reading the books, not everyone. I know my sister for sure will not be reading the books, but she's very interested in the show itself.
Right. So that's good, because then you're not going to spoil anything for anyone except me.
Right. Like I'll spoil the heck out of it. No, I don't. In general, it's so weird. I was talking to my little sister today. She was telling me how she's one of the people who murders kittens. I mean, she's one of those people who reads the end of a book before she can start it. She'll read a couple chapters,
Yep.
and then she'll just go and spoil herself because she wants to know what the outcome is.
No.
No. Yeah, I was like, really? Like, because we grew up in the same reading kind of mini culture in our reading was so important to us growing up, and she's betrayed those values. So no, I mean, so have I. Really, I don't physically read anything. I just listen to audio these days. So
it's just easier.
It is. I know. I'm like, really? You want me to spend the time to read a book? And yet I buy the hard copies of all the books I like. So I'm just weird. I like literature. We'll just say that. But
I knew that. I feel like if we're going down this road, it's a fair assumption for most people to make.
Sure. Well yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah. I'm like, oh yeah, I read that once, but I didn't enjoy it. But let's do a podcast anyways.
Right? Hated it. Worst book ever.
Worst ever. Yeah. So why don't we? Is there anything else you want to talk about in this area before we kind of move on to? We could talk about the show and our, not that there's that much going on, but
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right.
Moving on.
So moving on to the next segment, guys, where it's going to be about either the show or just show news in general. So if there's anything new that's coming out that we want to talk about, we're going to discuss that. So anything involving the show up to the point that it's been released is fair game, spoiler wise. We will not bring, at least like big spoilers, from any of the books except for potentially the parts of the books that touch on the show itself, which
Right.
could be all the way through. They say like book 2, they're going to have elements of book 2 in the show, so there's going to potentially be some of that.
So I gotta catch up.
Yeah, you need to hurry up.
Right. Sorry.
No pressure, but hurry up.
Got it.
Please.
Hurrying.
We'll see.
Is there any show news out since we last talked? Because it's not out yet. It's coming 2 weeks.
Right. I've been searching every day for new clips and everything on YouTube. I haven't seen any of those. I'll be honest. So I do get really hyped about the show,
Yeah.
about these sorts of things, and so I'll be searching for them. And yet at the same time, I have to be pretty careful about like the internet is so full of awesome material and stuff. I could really go down a rabbit hole and just spend all my time doing that. And so there's nothing brand new that I have seen that I want to specifically address. Like I don't think, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a small clip or some kind of, I think I saw that there was like an interview with some of the cast.
Mhm.
So here's a question for you though. How, if you were on the cast, would you want to read the books in advance? Like, would you want to know your own fate?
Ooh. I feel like I would want to know.
Because in a way, it's a spoiler.
I mean, yeah, but also then I feel like if I was playing a character, I would want to know what happens, because then I would be able to fully understand the character I'm playing and what my motivations are and what's driving me to act the way I'm acting. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's it seems like that would be a necessary element, frankly. And go ahead.
I was gonna say it's like doing research.
Yeah, I think I know that the various actors have actually read various degrees of the book.
Mm-hmm.
I watched briefly. There was I couldn't watch the whole panel, but they were all talking about it. Was at one of the Comic Cons, I think, like New York, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There's some kind of convention, and so the actors, they were talking about what they've read of the books. And I know that Rand had gotten, I think he had just started book 11 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So that was pretty interesting. And a lot of them, though, they were saying they don't, so they're kind of, they've gotten to, I think they've all gotten through like book 4 or something like that at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Which it's also very fascinating to think of these actors who, like, they're not necessarily book people. Like they're not academics. They're not, like, their job is to act, and that is distinct from being interested in books. Like they're not mutually exclusive, but
Mm-hmm.
like it'll be very interesting to watch it and then think of like Lan, who's this man of action and everything, and he's just like sitting there like reading a big old fantasy book
on his break.
Yeah, like, like as he's practicing sword fighting, I don't know, or maybe maybe they're all doing audio. It's very interesting to think of like the merging of the two worlds, because traditionally, like, the nerd culture is finally starting to be more mainstream, which is exciting to me.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's great that they're reading it though. That's totally what I would do.
Well, yeah, you think at the very least they want to get the idea of what the character is like and what their development is like, so they can kind of one would imagine. I don't know much about acting. Eventually, maybe if we keep doing this show, I'll actually start picking some stuff up. I don't know, but
Mhm.
I actually understand some more of their craft. But you would think that their actions, like the best of them, would be able to kind of project just a little bit of like this character development that's going to be happening throughout the series.
Right.
That they'd be able to be like, oh, this is where she realizes that this important thing is this. And so they'll, even if that part isn't scripted, like because of the nature of trying to convert these things, um you would think that maybe they'd be able to like build that into their character anyways.
Right. I just feel like when you read a series, though, there are so many points in a character's arc and development that you don't get to understand until you get towards the end of the series. So even if you were acting as that character, you wouldn't fully understand your intentions until you see the full character arc. And like, sorry, I'm really sorry to do this to you, to relate it to Harry Potter. You
Oh,
don't.
no, this is so funny because I was literally going to ask if like legitimately was going to ask if you had something, a question or like an example from Harry Potter, because I know you love that series. Like
Yeah. So like
100% was going to.
there is this story of, and I mean, I think it's true. I don't actually know if it's true or not, but there is the story of the reason why Alan Rickman could portray Snape so well in the movies is because he was told from J.K. Rowling what his character's arc was and what his character's intentions were before she'd even finished writing the series. So before you even knew that the reason why Snape is doing all of this is because he loved Lily so much, he loved Harry's mom so much, and that's his motivator. He knew that and was able to put that into his character to portray it on screen. And I feel like if you are in a scenario where you're acting as a character where you have all of that background knowledge available to you, why wouldn't you take advantage of that?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense actually. It's just a very interesting thing in this day and age of spoilers, and you don't want to know too much either. Like, so what if your character is going to die at some point? Like,
I mean,
I would think I would struggle with like bitterness and stuff, frankly. Like if
yeah,
I'm like well, I guess I'm just written off of this show. Like I'm gonna be done. Like, is that going to make your buy-in less as an actor? Like, uh, I don't know. Have you ever been in a position where at your job,
mhm.
like you get a new position,
Okay.
you get a new job, but you don't start at that job for 2 weeks or a month or whatever. Like,
Mhm.
out of professional courtesy, you need to make sure that your area, it has all of its stuff ready to go. Like,
Right.
so you do that, and but it's so hard to do a good job
You,
in that
you
month.
you mail it in.
Yeah, like I try hard not to, but that would be a very difficult thing for me
Mhm.
to yeah, not mail it in. Like I would just it's very tricky
I
on a psychological level.
I feel like that is part of the gig. Like that is part of your job as an actor, regardless of if you survive the series or movie to the end.
I guess you're right. I think you are right. I
Like,
think
I mean, like when I first watched Game of Thrones, I thought Ned Stark was the main character. And I was like, cool, here
go
we
on.
are. And then I was wrong.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that messed with me in a big way. And I think that's part of the popularity of the series, frankly. Like they had
Totally, but like, do you
no
think
one's safe.
he mailed it in?
Well, that honestly, that's actually a poor example for that actor, because he is known
I know that's
for,
true.
like, he doesn't survive longer
He-
than like one season, or like he dies
I
epically at
know.
the end of the first movie he's in. It's like a trope, like Dooku, the character who plays Count
Mhm.
Dooku, or Saruman, or whatever. Like, he was typecast as a villain. He couldn't get another. He was just a bad guy his whole life, and
Right.
he accepted that. Apparently, he had a good career, but I think Sean Bean is that his name? No,
Yes, that's right.
is it? Okay, good.
Yeah. I couldn't remember, but that's right.
But he's just like that. That's his thing. It's like if he's in his fantasy series, he's just gonna die.
He's gonna die. Okay,
So
well, I mean, you could because let's just use Game of Thrones as the example then. Like, what about Joffrey?
I don't know. I never watched it all the way through Joffrey. But thanks for those spoilers. No,
don't don't do this to me.
no, I read all of them though. I did read all of them. I didn't
uh
watch the show. And it's one of the most satisfying deaths ever, frankly.
it is.
I in fact I feel guilty at how good someone's death can feel on screen. It's not really okay, but
But I mean, if you knew that you were going to die in that role, would you be like, nah, not for me?
no. Well, so I guess the thing that I keep thinking of is like The Walking Dead and all of those actors.
Mhm.
Like a lot of those guys just they have to know. Some of them are like, my character was written out of the series, like, 4 seasons ago. Like, my time is limited. I could literally die at any point. They
Mhm.
could kill off my character, and they still do a good job. So I think you're right that it's not, they're not just going to mail it in. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't know how I would feel about it. So and I can't put myself in those actors' shoes. I guess they can just go find another job somewhere else as well. But um, yeah. Anyways, the show, I'll be excited to see. Uh, I'm wondering, how many characters are going to choose to omit from the series.
Yeah, that's always. I'm also curious, like how many characters will be there that I haven't met yet. Like how many people are going to be coming in that, or are even like, do you think instead of omitting characters, would they try to blend two characters into one?
Mm. Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. Actually, I hadn't really thought about that. That could be uncomfortable for me personally. I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't necessarily want that, but yeah. Or I don't know. There are certain story arcs that I'm like, I wonder how important they truly are. Like, I'll just be very interested to see as well. Let's see. Uh, so we don't want to give too many spoilers away here. I guess all I'll say is Padden Fane is in the start of like the books, and
Mhm.
I don't even think we've seen him in the trailers yet. I'm curious to see if he is going to be a part of the show at all.
Yeah.
He has, well, because he plays a role later down the line, and I'll be interested to see. So things like that. You have to wonder. So that they're planning 8 seasons,
Mhm.
but if every season's only 8 episodes, I mean that's 64 episodes, 64-ish hours worth of acting and storytelling. Whereas it can take, it could like you could get through 2 audiobooks in 60 hours.
Yeah.
Like, some of them are even longer than 30 hours. Like, it's that they're gonna have to trim it down so significantly. And granted, like, a lot of it's explanation and everything, but
Mhm.
or description, but it's
Right.
that they have to chop something out.
Oh, totally. And that's like that's what entices me, which is I hate when that happens, when books have things cut out of them when they're being adapted. But it's also one of those things that I'm always intrigued about, because I'm always comparing what the differences are.
Yeah, I think I must annoy my wife a lot. Like I just recently read the Lord of the Rings books, reread them after not having read them for a long time. And so we're watching Lord of the Rings. I'm like, oh, that's different. That's different. That's different. That's different. And
That's not right.
well, yeah, but there's a lot of value in that. Are like, that's part of why Lord of the Rings is so amazing, is because or that the movies, I should say, are so amazing, is because they did so many different things, but they stayed so perfectly in tune with the feeling of the books. Like all the decisions they made just felt super organic and like, oh, well, yeah, like that's not in the books, but I can understand why you would need to change that for a movie. That's reasonable. Like,
Right.
And in fact, I enjoy the movies more than I enjoy the books at this point.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have you read the books?
I've been on page 11 of the first book since I was 11.
Wow, you can't even do a page a year.
I have them somewhere.
Okay.
They can get on, they can go on the list. I can see your wheels turning. They can go on the list after I finish the Wheel of Time series.
Okay, that's fair. Don't put them on the list. Just don't. They're good, but I don't know.
I've read The Hobbit. Does that count? Probably not.
Kind of. Hobbit's great, actually. Really enjoy it. But in fact, it's totally different, entirely different. Like he actually wrote The Hobbit. Gosh, this isn't a Hobbit podcast.
Sorry.
No, it's fun. He wrote The Hobbit, and then he went to fight in the war in World War II, and then he wrote, and then he fought and then he fought. Then he wrote Lord of the Rings after that. So like the tone is so incredibly different. So and he hints at things in The Hobbit that never actually come to fruition because he realized that he didn't want to do that, or he wanted to go in a different direction. He talks about like the necromancer. Gosh, I could get all into the text. Like I could do a Lord of the Rings podcast too, but we won't do it. I mean, this is my approach to these texts though. Like I really like digging into the actual content and not just like, oh, it's a fun story, like yay. Like I really do like to look at the different literary elements and craft. And so it's just so fascinating to me to watch an adaptation, like you were saying, to be able to look and see what decisions they make, because they can't keep everything.
Absolutely. And I remember, sorry, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to take it back to Harry Potter. I remember when they were adapting them into movies, I was sitting there reading them and I thought to myself, how can you adapt these into a movie? Because you're going to cut things out and the series isn't done yet. So what if you cut out something that's important? So yeah, I don't know. I feel like it makes sense to work off a complete body of work and then adapt it.
I think you're right, though. I mean, that's part of the allure, right, of Lord of the Rings. It's a finished series, as opposed to the awkwardness that happened with Game of Thrones, where it was like that George R.R. Martin had several years to finish his series. He only needed 2 more books.
Right.
And he's just, I don't know. His decision, like he's just not going to, I guess. Whatever. It's not the series that I love to death. There are issues, but I know that's probably going to stop people from listening to us now. They'll be like, just done. That guy doesn't like doesn't like whatever it is. Yeah. A Song of Ice and Fire is what it used to be. More, that's the name of the series. But yeah, that's what I was trying to go for. Yeah, I don't have an issue with it, and it's very well written. It's incredibly well written. I just it's not my cup of tea, but they they gave him every opportunity to finish that series, and then he couldn't. And then, like, what do you do? Just wing it, I guess. And they made an incredibly unhappy, like, their fan base is not happy with the ending. I know that.
Right.
But how did you like the ending?
I enjoyed it.
Did you?
Yeah. Are we
Oh,
disagreeing on this?
oh no, I haven't seen it. I don't know what happens.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm surprised because I don't think I have met someone who's felt satisfied with the ending.
I loved it. I thought it was perfect.
Okay, that's cool. I'm glad you liked it. I want people to be happy about
Yeah.
the things they do.
I'm well aware of the fact that I'm in the minority. Now people are gonna stop listening because they're gonna be like, this girl, she liked it. What is she thinking?
It's pretty awkward.
Oh.
That's funny. There you go, guys.
Yeah.
Multiple reasons not to listen to us. That's just what you were tuning in for, right?
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
we're just culling ourselves from the herd.
Oh boy, it's going
So
well.
yeah, I can sense it's we're headed toward bigger things.
So, on that happy note,
Yeah.
do you have any other show thoughts, or do you want to head towards another segment?
Oh, I had one, but I'm now I'm spacing on it. Let's see. So the show, there's something really cool in one of the trailers that I want to. Oh yeah. So regarding this discussion of changing things and stuff, one thing that I think that they're going to be expanding quite a bit on is the role of Logain in this series.
Okay,
In the because like, so for you, what do you know? I won't tell you what you know. What do you know about Logain?
he's apparently a false dragon.
Okay,
Yeah,
and so like the how much like quote unquote screen time does he have in the books?
I don't think he has that much in the books.
Well,
They do talk
in the
about
first, sorry,
him.
in the first book is
Oh,
what I
sorry,
should say.
in the first book, they do talk about him. Um, he he wasn't one of the characters that gripped me, to be honest with you. He probably should have.
Well, I don't. He's from what I remember. I just read it a month or two ago.
Yeah,
He's he's
he's
very
like
interesting, but yeah, he's. Go ahead.
he just didn't like I wasn't intrigued by him other than what people were saying about him, of him being like this false dragon, and there was, you know, he was involved, his army was involved, I think, in a battle,
Mhm.
if I'm remembering correctly. Um yeah, he didn't, maybe I was just focusing too much on Rand and the boys, but he didn't seem too intriguing. And I think also the term, can I just say false dragon, just makes me not want to be interested in you.
So yeah, you're like,
Right.
oh, you're not even the real thing.
Yeah,
Like,
like you're a
uh,
phony. Why do I care? Like I feel like if people, I don't know, I obviously don't know enough about the term, but I feel like if people are calling you the false dragon publicly, then everyone knows you're the false dragon. Then why are you pretending to be it?
well, what if he really thought he was?
I
Because
guess.
I mean, from the first book, there's an element of, I don't know, White Tower intrigue that
Mhm.
could possibly be involved. I guess we can just say that for now. But like he legitimately might have just thought he was the dragon. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah. I d-
just because people call you a false dragon doesn't mean you feel like you are the false dragon, a false dragon.
okay, fair. Fair point. Um I I did see like 20-second clip of him, I think.
In the show.
Well, I saw it on YouTube because apparently YouTube gives me Wheel of Time suggestions now.
so yeah, I think he's going to be in the trailers they've shown him as, it looks like, so at some point they capture Logain, and so he's kind of in the book paraded in front of the people, and it's a spectacle, and he hasn't met his punishment yet, so he looks unbeaten. He just like laughs, and he's like this really strong person kind of. And that's like all you really see of him, is just like, oh, he's in a cage but he's not beaten, is what you see in the first book. And I feel like, so in the trailer it appears to me at least like Moraine and this is actually pertinent to our book discussion, but it looks like Moraine and Lan and company are going to end up meeting up with the Aes Sedai who captured Logain. And they're going to have some kind of interaction with his army attacking him, or attacking them, trying to free him, presumably. Right. So I'm excited for that, because that wasn't in the book, but it could easily have been an element. So.
Right. So that's like some liberty you would be okay with.
Yeah, I think it's within keeping. And honestly, like, it all depends too on how well it's done. If it's super cool, like I'm fine with, personally, I'm fine with them fudging a few things. If it's just the Robert Jordan's work is great. It is not perfect though. If you can add something and it's legitimately, it might be better. I don't know. And if it is, then I'll embrace that too.
Yeah. I will say the vibe that he gave me in that clip, and I don't know if this was intentional or if I was just reading into it, he kind of looks like he's mad, like crazy. Like he kind of looks like he's gone crazy in that little cage that they've got him in.
Well, and they talk about that a lot, about how the one power for men makes them crazy.
So good point.
Oh, that's fun. I'm very excited to see that. So yeah, that's one thing. I'm honestly, he might be one of. All right, so I'm putting you on the spot. Who are like? Well, this is inspired by my thought of Logain. Like, what are the top 3 characters? Like, who are the top 3 characters you're excited to like see on screen and interacting?
Ooh, Elias. Like, really want to see Elias on screen. That's gonna be super cool. Probably Perrin. And I do like Nynaeve. So I'm curious to see how Nynaeve's character starts. I'm curious if she starts the same way that she does in the book.
That's fair. I think there's a decent chance that she does start similarly, but.
And then obviously, like, Moraine is just an obvious one.
Oh yeah. Well, we've already seen a lot of her, actually.
That's obvious, but like definitely Nynaeve. But like hands down, top. If you were like, you have to pick only one, it would be Elias.
Cool, and yeah, he hasn't. Hopefully, he's not a character that's just been omitted. I don't know.
I hope not.
Oh,
that just kind of like crushed me a little bit.
But we just haven't seen him yet in the trailers, so.
I know.
I'm sorry. I take it back.
Don't put that into the universe.
they might not omit him. They might. In fact, they won't. I don't know. I'm sure someone knows, but yeah, that's a good list. I'm excited to see Perrin as well. I would like to see. I do want to see Logain. I mean, that's to me, he is, because I've read the books several times. I'm looking for new kind of takes. That you always notice something new if you go through a book a second time or third time. You're always digging a little deeper into the content, and So that's one thing I really paid attention to, was like the talk about Logain
Mhm.
and everything, and the fact that they're focusing on him in the show, at least in the trailers, which maybe he's just like first, like maybe he's like the villain for 2 episodes, and then uh, they're just focusing on what they can show in the trailer. We don't know, but the fact that he's in there more than just like for one laugh and that's it,
Yeah.
I'm very I'm excited to see him. And then I really want to, I'm really interested to see how Lan is, just
Mhm.
his deadly warder grace. And he looks, the actor looks a little different than I had imagined him,
Right.
which doesn't mean, like, he still looks cool. I have no issues with how he looks, but now I just want to see him. What I really want to see is him fighting alongside Moraine, and I
Mhm.
think we'll see a lot of that.
Yeah, I think we will too, which I'm also really excited for.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So why don't we talk about the book a little bit?
Okay. All right. So do you want to pick up, I guess, where we left off last time? Where they're
Yeah.
leaving. They're leaving the Two Rivers.
Yeah. So spoilers for, I guess, well, spoilers. I don't know, everything. Let's see. I don't even know how to describe where, at what point it's safe. So we're going to be
I
talking.
got notes. Hang on.
Oh, good. Good. You
I'm
use your
prepared.
notes. Good.
So
I'm not,
basically
apparently.
anywhere between, let's say, chapter 8-ish up until hang on, I gotta find my
Oh, I'm hanging on. I can
up
tell a joke
until
while we're waiting.
chapter 19.
Okay. Of Eye of the World. So that of
Yeah,
book 1.
that's a good chunk.
It is. And it was an enjoyable chunk as well.
Oh man, super good.
So
Go ahead.
so what are your thoughts? You're leaving the only home you've ever known, your country bumpkin. You
Yeah.
don't know anything.
Mhm.
You're leaving with 2 strange people who you hope have good intentions. They like to fight bad guys.
Yeah. You
What are
know
your
what?
thoughts?
When you phrase it that way, it kind of seems like a bad decision.
It seems scary, right? Like dicey. Like,
Yeah.
who do you put your trust in?
Yeah. Because you know that they are leaving um because they know that the Dark One is after one of the 3 of them, supposedly.
Yeah.
But then when you phrase it that way, it's kind of like, well, how do you know that Moraine and Lan aren't telling you this to make you leave and make you panic, just to lead
Right.
you to him?
Well, yeah. They're like, don't tell anyone. Like, we're gonna
Yeah.
go. It's like, hey, come to my van. It has candy. Like, no, don't. Your mom's gonna tell you no. Don't eat that candy. Like, just come get some candy. Like, no big deal.
No
Like,
big deal. I knew you were going to make this analogy. Uh, um, man, I did not even think when I was reading it, listening to it, that they should be, you know, particularly worried about it. My immediate thought listening to it was like, yeah, you need to trust Moraine, which
well,
maybe makes me naive.
it doesn't make you naive.
No, it does not make me naive. Literally, because she doesn't trust Moraine.
Right. Well, exactly. Yeah. I'm glad you
uh,
saw the next layer of it, but
I did. I see what you did there.
yes.
uh yeah, well, now I'm second guessing my own judgment and whether I would take candy out of a van. um
Down by the river.
yeah,
Yeah.
down by the river.
But Well, so I think what's happening here, though, potentially, is our society's kind of got this idea, especially people who are more familiar with the fantasy kind of stories, where you have the hero's call, or whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
where Luke just how crazy in Star Wars is Luke. He's like, he finally sees this old man he doesn't even, he just calls him old Ben, like he's not that familiar with him.
Right.
And so these crazy, you know uh, he just like meets up, he sees some droids, they run away, he meets old Ben, who scares away some Tusken Raiders, talks to old Ben's like, yeah, I know your dad, sure. And then Luke's like, goes and finds out his parents have, that, or his, his foster parents, his aunt and uncle, have
Hmm.
been brutally murdered. And he's like, yeah, let's go to another planet, and I'm gonna just learn everything from you. Like, I don't know who you are, but let's just go. Like,
Hmm.
it's madness. It doesn't make that much sense. Like, how does he know that Obi-Wan, that old Ben, isn't behind the deaths of those of his
Right.
family? Like it just happens to be the one time he's interacting with that guy that his parents just get killed. Like, he just isn't home. Like, uh, it's fine. I love Star Wars, obviously, but there's this hero's call that everyone just kind of just goes with the person who says they need to go, and usually works out.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, you just kind of put your blind faith into them.
Right. And to be fair, the Emmons Fielders do feel a range of emotions.
Hmm.
They're paying attention, and they're watching, and they're discussing between themselves. Like, they aren't being completely blind and naive, but it is just like, are you sure you made the right choice here?
Yeah, exactly. So, man, I guess it's good that they are paying attention to that and they are having those conversations.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I think one of my favorite, just in general, life rules is be skeptical.
Hmm.
Like, if even if it's something you've held, if it's this truth you've held for however many years, like, just every once in a while, just look at it, try to be a little contrarian, think about, question it. And the Emmons Fielders have all, like, they reference being stubborn all the time.
Right.
And I like that, in the sense that they're not just going to be pushed around. Like, they're naive, they're not necessarily like in their comfort zone, but they're going into it with their eyes as wide open as they can,
Yeah.
given the circumstances.
Yeah. So, yeah, this was definitely this, like them leaving the two rivers with Moraine, exactly what you said. It's that hero's call. You need it to happen. And it leads to so many good moments that just hook you repeat, like they hooked me repeatedly, which is hilarious. I realize, because I've said I've been hooked about 4 times already. um
You're a fish.
I'm a fish, fish in the
You.
water. uh but there's so much, like when they are leaving, like when they are leaving the two rivers and they are trying to outrun these Trollocs, these fists of Trollocs that are chasing them, and eventually they get surrounded by them, and Moraine takes her staff and slams it into the ground, just gave me goosebumps. Like that scene, I was like, yes, let's go. Like, she means business.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really cool. That scene is really powerful. It's also, so one of the things that the, this book this book has a lot of the, you can tell that Robert Jordan didn't have the full magic system planned out,
Mhm.
because that scene, it is super cool. I was like, when I was rereading it the other day, I was, or the other month, um I know, it just sound flippant, the other month, oh yeah,
Yeah.
but I was like, oh man, that is super badass. And then I realized, it's the magic is different. I don't know if
Mhm.
there's ever another example of her doing that.
Right.
It doesn't steal the coolness from it though.
No. And
But
that was like a moment that definitely made me more intrigued into the series or into the book so far.
yeah, and I don't blame you. It's a cool scene.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I want to go back just a little bit actually. I
Yeah.
think the part of the part of all of this of this book that was all it always felt so problematic to me was they get to Terran Fair. They're still in the Two Rivers, but to get out of the Two Rivers, they have to cross this big old river.
Yep.
And so they go in, roust out the ferryman. They're gonna maybe get robbed, but then the ferryman decides not to on account of their preparation of looking fierce and all of that. And
Mhm.
then so they cross the river, and at, up till this point, it's been scary because they're like being chased, and Moraine has always done everything like light side, kind of like this. She's always been good guy.
Right.
And the first problematic thing you see really coming out of her is she's like, oh well, yeah, we'll pay this guy, but we're also going to ruin his livelihood by just wrecking the ferry so that the Trollocs can't follow.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, so you can understand the reasoning, and yet she doesn't even outright do it. She just like there's a whirlwind or a whirlpool in the water, and it breaks up
Mhm.
the ferry. And
And you're like, wonder why.
right, well, in the Emmons Fielders kind of piece it together, unless
Mhm.
some of them want to be more naive than others.
Mhm.
But yeah, like it's problematic. It's like she's suddenly she's suddenly less moral than you had originally thought. It's like, and we're on the other side. We're on the wrong side of the river from her, or
Right.
from our friends. Like from anyone who would even dream of helping us, we have no hope but to like we can't just be like, oh, you know what, I give up. I changed my mind. I'm going back. Like up to that point, they could have presumably backed out of it. Like
Right. And now you can't.
yeah, they're so and at the same time they realize that they've tied themselves to someone who isn't only good.
She's
Like,
this that is like the first instance of you seeing her be like a chaotic good.
sure, well, yeah, like she may be good, and for them, they're like, we hope she's okay because she's our one hope. Like,
Yeah.
someone throws a rope to you when you're drowning, and you grab onto it, and I guess you just like you're like, well, I hope it's not rotten, you
Right.
know. I hope it gets me to safety. And she's playing her Aes Sedai game. She just doesn't even acknowledge that she did it, even though it's fairly obvious that she
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. So that's a good point.
And then, well, and just a little bit later, she sits down with Egwene, and up till that point, everyone like you could see the bias of all of the Two Rivers people. Like, oh,
Mhm.
the one power, like, oh man, I think Matt at some point he's like, I'm not a dark friend, like those Aes Sedai. Like everyone
Yeah.
just, you know, that's their. And then Moraine is talking to Egwene. She's like, yeah, hey, you want to touch this forbidden power too, like.
You can do it.
Come to my van,
Come to my van. I think she was more like I don't know, maybe I'm just trying to find more good in her. I feel like she was more pointing out the fact that Egwene could do it.
Well, sure. Like so,
Like
you
that's how
you have
I took
to.
it.
Well, so you're sympathetic toward Moraine though. Think about
I
think
know.
about the Two Rivers boys, and they've been told their whole lives that channeling can lead to madness for them, and that like clearly they have biases against Aes Sedai anyways because
Mhm.
they're calling them dark friends. Like even though they kind of trusted her after she killed a bunch of Trollocs, like
Mhm.
there's the whole culture in Two Rivers is still like we don't want you here. We don't trust you, Moraine. And so they see Moraine as like, oh, hey, now that has Egwene on her own, Moraine is corrupting our own people.
Right.
Like, Egwene's no longer on our side. She's been corrupted.
Right. She's kind of like getting her tenterhooks in there and bringing them over.
Yeah. And Rand's like, so what, he's got the like, if she becomes Aes Sedai, will I still get to marry her? Like, he's still thinking in terms of marrying her.
Right.
Like, Moraine's ruining his relationship as well, potentially.
Right. His awkward, weird relationship.
Right. The one that I don't necessarily believe is based on any like feelings, any emotions, really.
It's just a contractual obligation.
Right. But yeah, like this journey through the wilderness it's not just like, oh, that I'm, we're going on an adventure. They talk about going on an adventure, but it's also this idea that we don't even know, like, what have we gotten ourselves into?
Mm-hmm.
Like Trollocs and Myrtle are all well and good, but what about destroying a ferryman's livelihood and teaching our friend how to do this use dark powers?
Right.
Like, what have we gotten ourselves into? And the conclusion they come to is they still need to go to Tar Valon.
They still have to stay with her.
Right. Like I said, you have someone throws you a rotting line or a rope. You hope it's not rotting, but you're gonna hang on to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So sorry for ragging on your girl Moraine for so long.
No, it's fine. You're just making me look at it differently.
Well, she has her. I just find everyone has their different motivations, and that aspect is very interesting to me. Like, what is Moraine actually after? Because she wants to take away a tool for the Dark One. That's great, but then she's already like, she just immediately jumps into converting Egwene.
Mm-hmm.
Like, was Egwene her whole target in the first place? Like,
right.
What designs does she really have? And is the Dark One the only bad guy?
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyways, so the poor Emmons Fielders. Like, well, it's scary though, right? I mean,
well, and like you said, like, you've been in Emmons Field your whole life. That's all you know. And now you're leaving for the very first time. That right there is terrifying. And then you add in the fact that you have these biases because that's all you've known. That's all you've been taught to know and all you've been told to know. So like, theoretically, if you're Rand, you're growing up, or Matt or Perrin or whoever, you're being told not to trust Aes Sedai.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, your whole structure, like your whole social structure, like everything's all this oral tradition, right? Like, books are rare, and so the stories they tell are clearly very unflattering to Aes Sedai in general.
Yeah. So if they have these biases in them, and maybe the truths are being stretched a little bit here, I feel like that would play into it too, which kind of also just makes me more surprised that they agreed to go with her. But
well, so you could look at it in a nefarious light too, of would they have believed her and gone with her if the Trollocs hadn't attacked?
Right.
Like, she needed the Trollocs in a way. They were her partners in that exchange, and being able to scare them all into coming with her. That's the only way, because otherwise they'd have been like, we're fine. Like, why should we come with you? Like, we're happy. We've always been happy.
Yeah. Yeah, because if she just strolls into town, everything is fine. They're not going to care.
Yeah, like, she needed the Trollocs as a catalyst.
But then does that go back to that whole thing where she's talking about the pattern?
Like when, she said, like, Egwene decides to join them and she says, oh, she's part of the pattern too, Lan.
Yeah.
I don't know. Go to say more.
Like, does that, just in terms of like the Trollocs attacking, for instance, and her needing the Trollocs to get them to agree to go with her, would that have been something that she would have known about because of the pattern?
Oh, interesting. Like the pattern would open a way for her to be able to take them with her.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great question, because she clearly didn't expect the Trollocs to attack, but one wonders if she was, how would she have strong-armed them into going the direction she wanted them to go?
Mm-hmm. Exactly that. So then it's like, do you just go into that situation trying to strong arm someone and wondering how you're going to do it, or do you take advantage of what's been presented before you?
Right. Well, yeah, like it seems very convenient, and maybe that's, Robert Jordan's like, you know what, I don't want to have to overthink this, like, let's just make it easy. We'll give Moraine a freebie here. But it is problematic for, like, the Emmons Fielders must have been feeling like this is all pretty convenient for Moraine to get us out of here, like, because otherwise they wouldn't have left.
Yeah, absolutely. They would have just stayed.
Yeah, and their parents would have been like, oh, why do you need to go with them?
Mm-hmm.
Like some sorceress comes in, and that they don't know she's Aes Sedai in the books, at least. Some noblewoman comes in and wants to take away 3 or 4 of our people who, like, we have plans surrounding them. Like, Perrin's gonna be a blacksmith. Matt's gonna do things that I guess I can't. It's like the minorest of spoilers, but like, what his profession was going to be, which you find out like in book like 3 or something, and it's like not even a big deal, but I'm going to try to adhere to the no spoiler thing. But and Rand was going to marry Egwene, like they were kind of intended, so like they had plans for life. They weren't just like, yeah, the village was like, yeah, we can spare them, sure,
right,
like,
we
yeah,
don't
take
need
away
these
3
guys.
of our strong, promising young men, So, yeah, with it's just a very interesting thing. So, anyways, Moraine, all of the Emmons Fielders are all talking amongst themselves. They're taking it different ways, and they're slowly plotting on their way to Tar Valon. And I don't know what was the next part, in your opinion, that was the most like interesting to you? Like they're across the river. What's next?
Mm-hmm. So if I remember correctly, they cross the river and then they go to Bear. Am I saying it right? Baerlon?
Well, the Baerlon is. Well, yeah. Let's see. So, did they get to Baerlon first before
the river? Am I getting it backwards?
Before Shatter Logoth?
Yes, because something happens after Shatter Logoth that I don't want to spoil, since I said I wouldn't go past that.
Oh yeah, they do go to. So yeah, do they travel? I don't think they travel on the road to get to Baerlon, right? Like they.
I don't think so. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. But they're in. I'm pretty sure they cross the river before they get to Baerlon.
Oh yeah,
because
crossing. Yep.
Because they get to Baerlon because that's when Nynaeve meets up with them.
Right. Well, yeah. So like crossing the river, they cross the river, and then Baerlon, like that, the river is the border basically of their country.
Right.
Like they leave the 2 rivers and go.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, they get to Baerlon.
Mm-hmm.
And
they go to the inn, the Stag and Lion.
Nice. Yeah. And they are all they're such bumpkins. They're like, oh my gosh, this is what a huge city looks like.
Little do they know.
Right. And everyone's laughing up their sleeves at them. But it's kind of a fun, it's fun, but then they get there, they're excited to explore, they have the dream and the rats are dead.
Yes, that's right. So, and then this is when they all have the same dream, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying to all of them, because they're like, that was real. Like they see all these dead rats and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so and Nynaeve ends up tracking them there, and it's a whole bunch of, I feel like we learned a lot actually in Baerlon. Not a lot, but
yeah. Well, and then they come across, so yeah, like that. There's a few interesting aspects here. Something's clearly happening. Like Rand has an encounter with the White Cloaks as well, and like he doesn't even realize how foolhardy he's being.
I was gonna say he kind of is super arrogant in that encounter too.
Well, and I guess we can't really talk about what's going on. Like, here's the thing: there's a thing that's happening throughout the thing where he goes through these periods of brashness, and eventually that is explained, and it's actually explained early on in the book. It's really interesting. Moraine,
she explains it to Egwene.
Yeah,
I know where you're going with this. Yeah,
good. Well, I'm glad you caught that. That's not something I caught the first time through the books.
I didn't catch it until right now when we had this conversation.
Oh, okay.
Now I'm relating it to Rand.
Yeah, so like Moraine explains something to Egwene that happens to Egwene and Rand, but we don't ever see it with Egwene really.
But we're seeing it.
Yeah, like you start seeing it with Rand here and there, and if you put two and two together, you're like, oh, what's going on? So he has this encounter with the White Cloaks, and you're like, I don't think you know how to use that sword.
Yeah,
Rand, like, what are you gonna do?
And flashes it at them.
Yeah. And I really hope we get that scene in the books. I don't know, or in the show. I don't know if we will, but
I mean, I feel like that would be a little nugget for them to show, like to show him being brash like that.
Yeah, if they want to follow that kind of that arc, I'd be pretty happy to see it, frankly. We'll see. And then he meets up with Min as well.
Yes.
What did you think of Min?
She I feel bad for saying this because I'm assuming she, is important later on or something. She kind of gives me like carnival fortune teller vibes.
Okay.
Which sounds really like, I'm not trying to brush her aside, but that's just like the vibe that I got from her. She's very cryptic, which I found annoying. I like it when people just say what's on their mind. So she was a little too cryptic for my taste, but she's intriguing.
Yeah, she is. Min has a lot of interesting things surrounding her, I guess. Yeah, I never knew what to make of her either.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm going to leave off on Min for the most part, but she is interesting. And then they're all just chilling, and then what? Rand sees a Murdrell in the common room or something, doesn't he? He has an encounter with a Murdrell, and then they decide they have to flee the city, something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Because then when they flee, they get stopped.
Oh, you know what? I think maybe no. That's
Don't they get stopped when they're fleeing?
I'm mixing up what happens in Caemlyn with what happens in Baerlon, I think.
Hmm.
Or no, maybe he did see, one way or another. They decide they have to leave that night. They have to flee Baerlon.
Yeah, because then when they're fleeing, I remember this, they look back and they see like flames, like fire and smoke, and they know it's the stag and lion. Like that's what I remember that line where like they just, I think it's Moraine knows that it's the stag and lion, because doesn't she say something to I'm blanking on his name,
The innkeeper.
the innkeeper, to like, she basically tells him to try to distance himself from them.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh no
Yeah,
way."
he
You're
like brushes
good.
it aside. He's like, everything's fine, don't worry about it. And then they flee and they look back and his inn is on fire.
Right. Well, which then leads to a like, so then they're leaving the city, and they're talking to the guards. The guards are opening the gate a little bit. The White Cloaks tell them like, "Hey, stop! We're gonna question you." And Moraine gets all pissed, and she has everyone else right out the gate, and then she uses another of the book one powers.
Yeah.
Where she gets huge and just like steps over the wall.
Yeah. So, and then that when they look back, this is when they're fleeing and I think they're on Caemlyn Road at this point.
Yeah.
When they flee. And this is when they look back and Stag and Lion is on fire.
Yep, and Nynaeve is all angry and stuff, of course.
Yeah, because she hates Moraine.
She does.
For whatever reason.
For fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah. And then, gosh, it's almost like we should just break here, frankly. We've probably talked about the book long enough. We probably have had a long enough episode. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah. I mean, they've left. The next bit is what I was talking about earlier, where she throws her staff into the ground when the Trollocs are chasing them.
Yeah. I feel like we don't need to go too quick. Like we probably went too quick through the Baerlon part, to be honest. But yeah, so just to kind of go to one of our final segments, what's in this part, who's the most annoying character to you? What character?
Oh.
You don't have Narg to fixate on.
I don't have Narg.
It's nice.
Man, that makes it harder.
That's what she said.
I don't want to say it's Min.
Okay.
She's annoying to me in the sense of that she's cryptic.
Fair.
I was annoyed by Rand's brashness with the White Cloaks when they were in Baerlon. But that's more of just like a specific scene of where he annoys me.
That's fair.
This is hard because they're all just kind of like, I feel like they're all just doing what they're supposed to be doing at this moment.
So I'll tell you who my first bit, like when I was a teenager,
okay,
when I was first reading this, my most annoying was absolutely Nynaeve because of how unreasonable she was. She was just like, no, these kids are coming back with me, like just not gonna take no for an answer. Yeah, like I'm shutting you down right now.
She is so stubborn.
Yeah.
Like very, very, very stubborn.
Good Two Rivers stock.
So, but she hasn't annoyed me yet. I don't know why.
It's fair. I think I was just reacting to her like as an authority figure. I was just like, can you just stop getting me in trouble already? Like, stop nagging me.
Mhm.
Like I was projecting for the Emmons Field boys uh in that case, but now I can see her take on it. It's like, you left with some shifty woman,
Yeah.
didn't tell anyone, and the ferry got wrecked, and now you're in Bear Lawn. Like, didn't even explain yourselves. Like, she's basically just kidnapping our people.
Yep.
Like, why would she act with any kind of good faith with Moraine? Like, it just looks like she's duped her friends and kidnapped them.
Yeah. So I mean, that is a good point. But then does that make her annoying? Kind of
Well,
makes her logical.
well, back then I was like, well, of course everyone's a good guy that they've presented so far. So of course she's annoying. But yeah, I think, yeah, I don't find her nearly as annoying now. I think now my choice would be uh
I don't know.
probably. So I liked Rand's character development here, because he does mature a little bit and realize, like, he starts putting himself into other people's shoes and starts understanding what more about leadership and stuff. I think that Egwene and her coldness toward Rand is really
That's
irritating.
right, because they're fighting here, aren't they?
Well, yeah, she for no reason that I can see, Egwene's just like not talking to him at all.
Mhm. I forgot about that. She's just ignoring him.
Yeah, she does that a lot.
Maybe it's Egwene. Oh, does she? Lovely.
Well, at various times, but yeah, that's my chick, my choice and pick
Mhm.
combined to say chick. So apparently, accidentally, but it
Oh,
did happen.
yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. And then I would probably follow it up with Matt and Rand being idiots with the white cloaks.
Yeah. Well, like, Matt was just doing a prank, and then Matt was like, Rand, you want to stop doing this madness?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So anyways, what is there anything else we need to talk about? Should we call it good?
No, I think we're good. Okay, so that is everything for this week. So join us next week for the next episode, and may you always find water and shade.
See you next week, guys.